Okay, so I think everything is running already. So welcome to the 123rd airhacks TV. Yeah, we already had a nice chat. So the show started 10 minutes later because I was late, but we took the time for informal conversation. And before I start, I have to, I almost forgot about that. I will be next week. And in 2 events in 1 day. It's the same company. I think one event is internal and the other one is external. And the first one is the productivity funds, security and cost savings. And what I'm doing here, I will talk about actually what Siddharth is asking is about serverless Java. And this is going to be next week and from 9 to 11th in Czechia. And it seems to be free. And and what I will do is I will talk about serverless Java with Lambda, cold starts, and infrastructure as code, full stack Java, frameworkless. This is interesting. So it fits everything. So it's nice company. I was invited last year, but it shifted to this year. I'm already looking forward to this event. So I will code a lot here. And you can ask me questions. So if you are around Czechia, you are highly welcome there. And the next event is going to be an evening event at 4. And this is going to be building serverless Java apps with serverless generative AI. So what I will talk about is what I plan to do is to use AWS Bedrock or Claude directly or ChatGPT directly, and some ideas how to integrate with LLMs and AI, or how to enterprise integration of LLMs. This is where I spend my time. And yeah, I don't know how to pronounce this. Tito Every. This is the company who invited me. Seems to be a nice one, and yeah, passionate Java people there. So. Okay, almost forgot about that. So this is solved. Then, so this is the conference is called Mixer. So I was invited, and so this is done. Also, very important announcement for me, and it happened first time in the history of airhacks. I only have to find this. Okay, so there will be in July. There was at the 18th. The serverless generative AI with Java on AWS was announced. This is the airhacks live workshop I do twice a year. What happened was I was at the 18th of July invited to right now a secret event, but I think I will be allowed to talk about that afterwards. It is somehow related to the workshop you see here. And so what I had to do is to shift the workshop 1 week later. So there are already registrations, so I will send you an email. And if you cannot attend at 25th, I'm only talking about this workshop. If you cannot attend, you get your money back. No problem, but I cannot be at the 18th. So I have to travel and yeah. But if you will attend on the 25th, maybe I can reveal something. It depends on the NDAs. So this is what, this happens the first time, so that I actually had to reschedule a airhacks live event or airhacks.com event. So sorry for that, but I mean, what I can do. I'm a singleton, and singletons don't scale. That's the problem with singletons, right? Okay, so we covered this, and yeah, okay. Also interesting, now do the marketing show now, semi-marketing. I had lots of fun with Nikolai Palok about Java 22 features. So if you're interested in recent Java features, check out this episode, airhacks FM. Then I had a conversation with product manager from Quarkus about Quarkus and LangChain for J integration. It's really nice integration, I would say. What I like is how the scopes are integrated with LLMs. So this is also an interesting episode. And this one, so should be fun. I don't know whether you remember the link block. It was one of the most popular block, and the Eric Thorvin I actually asked at the beginning how to pronounce it, but I forgot it. But Eric is a really nice guy. And we had a chat how the link block happened. And he had a crazy traffic, as more than Java blocks. And it was like crazy, right? And it was a really nice interest. And really, and the story of Eric is crazy. So he started, you know, as a computer, as a young kid, you know, hanging around computers in a mall. And then he became very soon worked on Apple like a a manager of a group of developers. Who is a crazy story. But what also Eric doesn't like is external dependencies, which is interesting, right? So then a series with Paul Sandoz about he's from Oracle. He's like a JDK developer about Project Panama, and one episode about Builder. Yeah, this is the LangChain with Dimitro. This is how the LLM framework happened. So I would say I had lots of fun with the podcast, and the problem I have, I get so many guests in the queue. I already thought to have bi-weekly episodes, but I'm not a podcaster. I have no time for that. So okay. And this was just if you enjoy Java, and I always ask the question, what is your first computer? This is my question, the first question, and then we just have a freestyle conversation about topic, right? So now Geekon Conference I will also attend, also with serverless stuff, because someone asked me about the conference. So on this conference I will also attend, and I think this time in my talk, I will only code without slides, as I remember. I only have to find the talk, because I was in Prague, and there, let's see. Yes, containerless, bloatless, YAML-less, serverless Java. Nice title, right? My title. And so what I will do, yeah, exactly. I will code the entire time. So if you're interested to know how it feels like, and this is going to be recorded, so feel free to watch and give feedback. Okay, this is the conference, and this was the first question. And someone mentioned, what is my opinion on the frameworkless approach, and this was the very first official question. What can I get without big frameworks in professional Java enterprise? And this was the 2 links. And the interesting part, there's an article from Mr. Martin Wisny, and what he suggests is to start without frameworks. And I reread the article, and I have to say, it is absolutely my opinion. And it's even like, there's almost like telepathy that Martin Wisny, just stealing my ideas. So here. So it absolutely my mind, and I have to say, in my current projects, we have no frameworks. Actually, we use if we need the JAX-RS endpoint. Is some of the question in the chat. So we use Quarkus for it, but for instance, for event-driven Lambdas, there's absolutely no framework. And last week even, so I removed Jackson because I noticed that we can get complex events deserialized into a map. And with deconstruction in Java records, it works just fine. So I was able, so no kidding, so my Lambdas have absolutely 0 dependencies. Asynchronous Lambdas and the synchronous Lambdas have Quarkus as dependency. Okay, but let's start with the very first question from the chat. And Siddharth, really sorry that that I promise you come first, but now you are of the 5th. And he asked me, Adam, is Java widely used for AWS Lambda despite of cold start issues? So what are the cold start issues? So several projects. All my projects currently with AWS Lambda are big. And big means several hundred Java classes, 1 Lambda. And all projects, the cold start is around 1.5 seconds. So this is the very first start. If you pay roughly 15 euros a month, there is no cold start. So and the question is, why are we using AWS Lambda? And the answer is clear. the companies are really interested in cost savings, and even if you pay, the 15 euros a month and don't have, the cold start on the heavy load, for instance, it maybe even pay out, because if you pay the 15 euros, above a threshold, you pay less for the invocation. So on the heavy load, you even could save money. So why we use AWS Lambda, serverless Lambdas? To save money. So that's the thing. And my, this is not my job to decide whether, oh, maybe this is better this way. It's not my job to decide whether it is appropriate, to use Lambda or not, because what I tell the managers, there is an AWS calculator tool, and I say, okay, for Kubernetes, we will pay, several hundred or even 1,000 euros a month. And with Lambda for enterprise apps, we pay maybe nothing, or 10 euros a month. Now is your decision. Can we live, with one cold start every 2 minutes or 1 minute, or not? And this is the basic decision. So if they say no, then okay, exactly. Then you pay, but it's not several hundred euros per microservice. It's more like several hundred euros per microservice per stage or environment, because usually we have dev, int, prod, sometimes even more, and you will have to pay the amount per environment. And with serverless Lambdas, it is completely free. So this means, despite of cold start issues, I would say comparing to Python or other languages, I mean, Java is pretty fast and Quarkus is crazy fast. And I have to say, we could minimize completely the startup issue by using GraalVM, for instance, native compilation in a container, but I never did it because still Java now, without native compilation, subsequent calls are faster. And if the subsequent calls are faster, you are paying less and you are not paying for the cold start. So this is so the question is, how bad is the cold start? In all my projects right now, no one cares, because we can save a massive amount of money for enterprise projects. So under heavy load, this is if you really have several thousand transactions per second the entire time, then Lambdas are less interesting than maybe Fargate or EC2 even are more interesting. Okay, interesting. Okay, let's see. I cannot be in Geekon Slovenia, unfortunately. So, and now Benjamin asked me, why do Spring devs name endpoint classes controller and Java EE people resource? Is it a resource only if it's a REST API, right? Yes. Resource is an old name from JAX-RS, and it comes from ROA, resource-oriented programming. So at the beginning was service-oriented service-oriented architecture. Service-oriented architecture. And the SOA was procedural. This was SOAP-based usually, and basically you invoked a static method with lots of XML. So this was about SOA. And then REST happened, and this was ROA, resource-oriented architecture, and the resource-oriented architecture was around objects. So it was more or less object-oriented or resource-oriented. So there was a concept like a customer, and if you said, customers is plural, get customers, you get all the customers back. Customer/ID, you get the one customer back. Customers post, you created a new customer. Customer put, you created or updated a new customer. And delete, you deleted the customer. But the interesting part is it was like almost convention. The CRUD was almost convention. Okay, then I hope it's clear, right? And the Spring people, for I don't know why, but they don't like the JAX-RS, and they have their own framework. I forgot the name. I never used that, but I know they don't like JAX-RS, and they invented something own. So this is, and everyone else uses JAX-RS. It means Helidon, Quarkus, OpenLiberty, WebSphere, Glassfish, Payara, Whitefly, and yeah. Benjamin asked me, can you explain a bit about flat class path? Someone mentioned Quarkus is not great for monolith because it has a flat class path. I have never heard about of flat class path. So flat class path is okay. What is not flat? Not flat was Java E, and what happened in Java E was that there was an EAR, enterprise archive, and in the enterprise archive was the first class path. Class loader. And the class loader, flat class loader maybe, or class path, I don't know, and the class loader. And the EJBs were loaded by a child class loader, which depended on EAR. And war was loaded also on a different class loader. There was a class loader hierarchy. And there is no such hierarchy in Quarkus, means everything is loaded by a single class loader. Now the question is why it matters, because what happened at application servers back then after reload or hot reload was hot deployment. This was not a hot reload or hot deployment. Was you can only cast a class if they is loaded from the same class loader. And if you are curious, search in my shorts for that. So I recorded a short to demonstrate that. So I got class cast exception between two classes of the same type, because they were loaded by different class loaders. So I recorded a short about that. So, so what means is this cannot happen in Quarkus. But what is the downside of flat class path? You cannot have two classes in different versions at the same time. So, and my point is I don't want to have two classes in two versions at the same time. And I never heard the argument actually, and everyone likes the flat class path of Quarkus, I would say. This is like great simplification, and I never had an issue with it. And I'm using big monoliths with Quarkus and never had an issue with it. The question is, will you come to Italy to AWS Summit in May in Milan? Unfortunately not. May is already loaded, but I cannot come to May. But in July, I will attend a similar event. Okay, but not in May. May is crazy. Sammy follows my my broadcast, I hope, for several years. Thank you for that. And if you like, join our Discord channel. It's airhacks. And it's quiet, but sometimes if a question, or there's from time to time is a question, I'm actually pretty happy that it's quiet. But it's a good, to discuss some, stuff from time to time, or I use it, to direct message attendees on demand. So Sammy asks, I am working a really boring job as Java engineer. Perfect. So now, you can, in your leisure, you can do the more cool stuff, right? So, and I'm really old fan of Java. What if your advice for being professional Java architect? So I think my advice of being professional Java architect is not being a Java architect, rather than coding more, and this architecture happens somehow. I mean, if you already saw a lot, right, in Java, and someone asks a question, then what I try to do is not only, for instance, recently someone asked me something about LLMs, right? I'm saying, okay, we can do this, but what I did instead, I created a small proof of concept and actually demonstrated how it works. And the proof of concept was not just proof of concept, more like, a working solution with nicer structure. And this was the architecture. So I would say, speak nothing against that you are, driving the idea with source code. You don't have, to do a whiteboard architecture, just create spikes, proof of concepts, or whatever. And but what I also found out, if you, for instance, the serverless stuff, right? Someone asked me about cold starts. Actually, no one, and there was a larger company a few years ago, and I suggested Lambdas, and they said this is not possible. It will never work. There are cold starts, and this is limitations. Is not suitable for most of the applications. And they said, okay, then no, maybe we should create a proof of concept. And then we did a proof of concept, and it worked better than expected. And they reversed the entire strategy, for instance, right? So this is also a kind of an architecture. So I don't know whether I gave you, the right advice, but this is what I try to do. because if you are architect, I mean, in just try not to show some diagrams, I mean, there is not always value in it, right? So, oh, Alex S. I think this is the friend of the show. And he asked me, how about testability in Frameworkless Lambdas? Aren't these dependencies to cloud resources that are hard to mock? The cool story is I don't even try to mock them. So what I for instance do is I start Quarkus locally, and Quarkus connects to S3, or Quarkus connects to DynamoDB, or Quarkus connects to Kinesis, SNS, or SQS. So I don't even try to mock all the dependencies out. What the great story in serverless is, you can create account on the fly. You can even provision the account or bootstrap the account on the fly, on the fly, not fry, on the fly, and then deploy the and then start, you know, Quarkus locally as Lambda, and it will connect to your account and use the real resources. So why we should lock the resources, and then after the show you tear down all the resources and the account is empty. Okay, Sammy, to follow my advice. So I cannot see, you know, maybe you get throttled, maybe, right? So Alex, I hope I answered your question. And the only issue is in event-driven Lambdas. So if your event-driven Lambdas subscribes to EventBridge, for instance, then how to test that? And still, you can still have you can still have, you know, a Lambda in your account. And what I do then is I write a system test with SDK, which sends directly the messages to EventBridge and see what the Lambda does. And for and the Lambda is structured this way, boundary control entity, that the entry point gets, you know, on the map, and as soon as possible, I'm creating from the map a Java record. It's a business event. And from there, everything is testable. Siddharth, I hope I pronounce your name perfectly. When we say no framework, are we not losing the developer experience? I think no. Why? Because Java becomes more and more powerful, right? For instance, Java 22, you can launch Java without compiling and use JAVAX scripting language, which pulls, you know, all Java classes from outside. Prior to Java 22, I had to use, you know, Nashorn, Bean Shell, external dependencies. Then, for instance, in Java, I think 17, this is a long time ago, we got Java records, and Java records killed basically DTOs, which killed Lombok with getters and data you don't need anymore. So you could already, you know, also Dozer and all the other frameworks are no more necessary. And Java records is just one-liner and killed all the dependencies. Then, and actually, this one kills all the mappers, because what we also have is we have if pattern matching, I forgot the proper name, as a pattern matching if statements, which allows you to deconstruct Java records. Deconstruct means if a Java record with 50 fields and I'm interested in 3, I can just pick the fields, create another record and return it with 2 lines of code basically, or 4 lines of code in worst case. So what it means is the Java language itself become more powerful. Or for instance, let's say you would like to test JSON, right? So prior to Java, I think 11 or 12, there was no multi-line strings. And with multi-line strings, you can just copy over your JSON document, use string formatted, and you have your JSON for test purposes without any library. And what I also find out per accident, which is interesting, there's a nice org.json library, which you can just, you know, build with Java-C. Or don't build at all. So if you go to my shorts, what I use the library without any compilation. So I would say we need less and less frameworks, right? And also what I did, I eliminated last year completely Bouncy Castle with JDK encryption features. You can absolutely do this. But in most tutorials, Bouncy Castle is used without a reason. And Bouncy Castle, the encryption library, also, you know, comes with security problems, even critical ones, but you can absolutely use JDK out of the box instead of bouncy castle. So I would say, or there are lots of examples. So today, actually, I reviewed a project and they use collections for Java Commons Lang. This with and what I use, is blank, is empty string, the usual suspects. You don't need it, right? So, what microphone do you use? You have a very good audio. This is because of my voice. You have no microphone here. It's just I have a brilliant voice and I'm a radio moderator. This is actually the reason. No, the mic is what's the name? I don't even know. So it is how to tell. There is no usual mic. Okay. So Sandor asked me, Sandor work. Okay. You always highlight you develop simple and boring serverless application. I like the approach, makes the life easier. Could you please give example how complicated can be monolith you ship? What it means, how, I mean, as complicated as you like. I cannot talk very specifically about project, but in one project, it was prior to this was a large JBoss application, and now it is one Lambda. And the other project has several hundred endpoints, also one Lambda. Or there's actually multiple Lambdas, but one main Lambdas and other Lambdas are event-driven Lambdas. So I would say if you know my Glassfish and Java E projects, the Lambdas are one-to-one. So there's no difference, I would say. Whatever was a war prior to that, now is Lambda. So just, no, this is the answer. I'm just migrating all the wars to a single Lambda and I'm done. So this is actually, so I'm completely misusing the Lambdas as a runtime and it works perfectly. And the only problem is we try to avoid external dependencies and because they are big, right? But there is nothing against several hundred classes. So if you just, create a business classes, they are tiny. It absolutely doesn't matter whether you ship one class or 500. It's just, it loads still fast. So, and my feeling is even the more classes you have, the faster it gets because the hotspot can, prepare the code and optimize the code. So yeah, just put whatever you have in one Lambda. But what I do, I structure the entire project according to boundary control entity. This is my old way. By the way, Ivar Jacobsen, the inventor of boundary control entity, I had him on the podcasts, and he said he would like to to be again on the podcast, and he will come back. So, which is pretty cool. So, okay. So I hope I answer your question. So, what do you use for logging? Benjamin asked me. CloudWatch. Yes, actually, I use system out println and CloudWatch, and it is what's expensive in CloudWatch are the API invocation. What's not expensive is the storage. So you have to be cautious. But if it is too expensive in Lambda, you can ship whatever you like, the logs. But with CloudWatch is, I don't think is. I mean, in our project, it is the biggest amount of money, but it's still nothing compares to Kubernetes, right? So we don't have to optimize CloudWatch, yeah. And for monitoring, also CloudWatch. Then what I use for rate limiting, just API gateway throttling, this and Lambda throttling. So you have the I mean, in a Vue project, I use REST API gateway throttling, but usually if you can do this on Lambda level. And what we also think about is what we also think about is to use AWS Shield for DDoS. So yeah. So Siddharth, you asked me Quarkus framework usage in Lambda versus plain AWS SDK. Plain SDK, I don't understand. Maybe plain CDK. So Quarkus framework, I only use Quarkus framework in synchronous Lambdas, which are exposed as HTTP endpoints. in all other Lambdas, which are asynchronous, I'm not using Quarkus at all. I'm also not using the Lambda SDK. I'm just have a method with input stream, output stream, and context, or an object, and I'm done. There is no interface, nothing, a single method. And in the first line, either I map a string to object, so the event, usually I can have a class, it can be Java record or map. Or if I would like to be flexible at my own events, then I'm using JSON-B with a single liner, and I'm deserializing the input stream with one liner. It is like JSON, create reader, create reader and read object, a two-liner, and I have my entire event in the object. In the object, you have the entire stream in a JSON object. This is what I wanted to say. Okay. So the AWS Shield is free, and there's also a paid option. So and the paid option is like 500 euros a month, which is, I think it starts something like this, which is worth for commercial projects. But the free version is just your basic DDoS. Okay, but I have to start with the real questions, or maybe we covered them already. But take a look. Yeah. Someone asked me, new to developing apps with Jakarta E, how exactly can I test and REST API layer? And so I got it from our Discord. And by the way, this is airhacks, so you're welcome. If you like, you can also just click on the link. And and what I do meanwhile is usually I always have two projects, even in Lambda case. So I have one Quarkus, which is the service, which can be a serverless application on Lambda. And the other module or service is also Quarkus, but it only comprises source, test, Java, nothing else. And then what I do is I copy my JAX-RS endpoints to the system test project and convert classes to interfaces. What happens then? After this thing, the interfaces are injectable, just MicroProfile REST client. So what it means is, I can show you an example. My MicroProfile IO. So, and the REST client. And the REST client is where they have they had usually, this is I have to ping Emily. There was usually exactly, so there's a list of specs, but in the case of REST client, they lost the spec. But anyway, this is what I wanted to show you even better. So there's still this is how it looks like. You get an interface with path, get, and so forth. And the cool story is, if you have such an interface, you can inject it to Quarkus to a test, and then you have your system test. That's basically it. Now the question is why I'm not using REST assured, and the answer is because I can completely reuse these interfaces, and I get a microservice client for free, and the best tested client ever. So this is how I test all my applications actually. Okay, perfect. This is also covered, Vardin boot, then MicroProfile REST clients. And what I noticed, if you go to beanadam/shorts, so I have already over 500 Java shorts. Shorts is like short videos on YouTube, 60 seconds or less. And the cool story is there's a small community already, and I got more and more comments, and I'm answering to the comments with a new short usually. This is how I get the ideas. And currently I got questions regarding type erasure, generics, bridge methods. We had from emojis to everything. This is lots of fun to me. And yeah. And why I'm doing this, somehow it started I know how it started. At conference, there's a nice conference in Krakow. It was called, I think, JDD. And they said, okay, could you record a promotional video? But I said, okay, this is a lot of work. But I then found the short. It's okay, 60 seconds, so I can do this. And from there, the very first short is the promotional video for my talk. I'm recording every day as a short about various topics. But usually it starts frameworkless. No frameworks. I'm starting always with the main method. So this is what happens. Lots of fun. Then, especially fun was my 1st April short. And you don't have to watch it, but read the comments. They are the best. So what I did is I implemented an applet and deployed an applet, opened an applet viewer, and sold this as PWA with Java on the 1st April. And there were developers who were delighted, saying, this is great, I never saw this, what is it? And but the interesting part is, take a look how easy it is comparing to today's web frameworks. And what also cool was, if you think about this, the applets and bytecode is very similar to Wasm. And I got so many comments that I actually recorded a follow-up short explaining, what was true and what was fake in the video, because what I said, it only works with HTML7. And I got a comment like, HTML7, there's only HTML 5.2. And yeah, this was a lot of fun. Okay, so, and the last one is date change for the workshop. So this is already warned you. This will 1 week later, but it will take place. The first time in the history of airhacks, I have to shift the date, so sorry for that. And I was invited to Devoxx Poland, but I forgot to answer, which is really sorry, because the guy is really great. He called Greg Duda is the name of the organizer. He pinged me and I forgot to answer because my deadlines are chasing me. This is the problem. So if there were no projects, no clients, then I would be on all conferences. And the problem is, there's too much to do with Java. It's still crazy popular. This is problem. So but I will check it out. But what I'm for sure is at Geekon, then JAX in Frankfurt. Next week in Ostrava and in Weiden is JDC is also, I have to deliver a keynote. So I'm on a couple of conferences, but not all the time, because conferences take a lot of my time, and that I have lots of projects to complete. Okay. Now, let's see what Benjamin asked me. Have you ever tried OpenAPI Generator so you don't have to copy the interfaces manually to different projects? Yes, but I like to copy the interface to different projects because they look a little bit different. For instance, in the projects, so in my main project, I'm returning JSON objects, for instance, or Java records. But in my tests, usually I would like to have response classes. And the response classes, why? Because I would like to check the status code, the headers, and so forth. So usually they are a little bit different, the interfaces, and yeah, that's the reason. So, but if I get you, so you could also try to generate it, it's also fine. So if you have already OpenAPI, just generate, no problem. And Benjamin, I know your name from somewhere. I think you attended my airhacks live, right? So I guess. So so we are done. So this was a late starter this time, and time flies. So I remember now this is the first show in 2024, and we have already the 5th show. So I would say if you are in conference, just it would be cool if you say to me, say hello. I watched your airhacks TV, and it's always nice to meet someone. And yeah, and if not, see you in Discord. And I always I'm playing with the idea for years to have maybe a Discord show. So Discord supports streaming, it works well. Maybe we had something more bi-directional, could also work. And of course in July there's a airhacks One is about NoSQL persistent with DynamoDB, and the other one is with LLMs and some ideas how you can use the LLMs in enterprise projects. So this is basically the idea. Okay, then I would say thank you a lot and see you next month. Bye.